Every single person on the planet, in my eyes, every single person has a unique set of talents that were brought in here to use, to create value with, to make a contribution.
Welcome to Flip Your Script, the podcast about life's critical turning points and how people find the inspiration and motivation to move forward and rewrite their unique stories. Flip Your Script is produced by Media Minefield, a public relations firm passionate about the power of sharing stories. Specializing in earned and social media, Media Minefield helps clients take control of their unique story and message. The show is hosted by Kristi Piehl, founder and CEO of Media Minefield, who flipped her script from an Emmy-winning journalist to a successful entrepreneur and speaker.
This episode feels like a birthday party. The podcast is a year old, and to celebrate, everyone listening gets a cupcake. Well, I would if I could. Instead, we're going to give you something I think is more valuable than cake. This podcast started because of a session I had with an incredible woman who pushed me way beyond my boundaries. And listening to her is a gift I think all of you can benefit from. Julia Waller is a key leader at Strategic Coach headquartered in Toronto, Canada, and she's the main designer of the concept Unique Ability. She co-wrote the book on it and holds one-on-one sessions with entrepreneurs to determine their unique ability. I think this way of thinking can unlock superpowers for everyone listening. And that's why I asked Julia to join me on this special episode. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Kristi. Better than cake? Wow, that's pretty high praise.
So now you have to deliver.
I know, right? No pressure.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So I met you through Strategic Coach, which is best known for being associated with Dan Sullivan. And I traveled to Toronto as part of the 10X program. And you talked about this other session that could happen called Unique Ability. And I'd read the book and listened to podcasts about it because even though I'm not a fact finder, I was interested to learn more about it. And it really resonated with me. I came to Toronto in November of 2019, and I felt that something really transformational was going to happen, but I didn't know what it would be. And I get into a room with you and you go all in on learning things. So talk to me about, just like for people who have never heard the Unique Ability concept, what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was such a fun day. So Unique Ability, so Dan Sullivan coined and created this concept and built a whole thing around it. I kind of grabbed it and turned it into a process and went really deep with people on it, which has been super fun over the last, since 1997, I've pretty much been latched onto this concept. And he actually came up with the concept by going around, I think it was in 1980. He went and was back in the day for the government, had to go and do a study on people with disabilities. And what he learned was that the people who were the most successful were the people who actually focused on their abilities versus their disabilities. So he's like, well, wait a minute, we all have disabilities. I'm disabled at organizing or, doing certain types of tasks. I'm not good at them, right? So it was kind of like this aha moment. And then he's built a concept around it and he's been using it for all these years. So essentially the way I look at unique ability is it's your unique set of natural talents that is driven by your passion. So if that's kind of bottom line, if you look at a unique ability activity that you're doing, so for example, you're interviewing someone, right? It's something where there's 4 characteristics. So you have a superior skill. You're really, really good at it, right? It gives you energy. And when you're doing it, other people get energized too. You're passionate about it. You just love it. It's something you just want to do. You do it for free. You do it naturally. It's kind of like breathing. You talking to people is just what you do, right? And you're really good at it. And then the 4th quality, which is kind of interesting, is that you want to keep getting better at it. There's a sense of never-ending improvement, but not because you're already bad at it and you have to kind of get up to minimum standards. It's like you're already really good at it and you want to go even further with it. So when you think about, if you look around your life and figure out the activities, what do I do that really energizes me? And then, when I do my sessions with people, I go much deeper than that. I go beneath the activities and figure out, well, what are all your talents and habits that make you so good at what you do?
And this concept, though, as Dan Sullivan talks about it, and as you work with people, it's for entrepreneurs. However, you don't have to be getting paid for the activity for it to be your unique ability. In fact, most of the time, what you're getting paid for you would also do even if you weren't getting paid for. So stay-at-home parents have unique abilities, students have unique abilities, it doesn't matter what you do, you have
Absolutely.
this, and your life is better if you lean into it.
100%. Every single person on the planet, in my eyes, every single person has a unique set of talents that were brought in here to use, to create value with, to make a contribution. Now, some people have an idea of what that is and they've really leaned into it, and other people don't even know they have one, right? So the more we can create awareness and consciousness around, oh, wow, actually what I do is really amazing. Even, it could be nurturing your kids. I'm a mom, and nurturing growth and, connecting with people is part of my unique ability. I use that with my daughter. I use it with my clients. So we use our unique ability at home, at work, in the community, wherever we are. We just don't know we're doing it because it's easy for us. It's simple. It's what we would just do being us. So that's partly why we have this whole unique ability process where we can get outside of ourselves and actually look at ourselves and say, well, what is it? That whole idea, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. We can't read our own labels. We don't know what's inside the bottle. We can't see it. Yeah, everybody has one. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs tend to have the most freedom around designing their lives around their unique ability. They've got the means and they've got the strategic thinking abilities and the ambition that's going to cause them to delegate the things that are not their fun things to do and they're not good at, so they can go towards bigger and bigger goals and create futures that are bigger than today.
What's so exciting, I think, about unique ability, and one of the things that resonated with me is that so often in society, we focus on the things we're bad at or our weaknesses, and then we don't spend as much time really leaning into those things that fuel us up and give us energy. And it's not only is it disappointing, but it's just not very fun to, here's my weakness. Let me see if I can get better at it. Now, I know there are things we have to do. At one point, driving a car was a weakness of mine, and I had to sort of figure it out. So when it comes to tasks at work, though, the really just slogging through things that you hate and staying in jobs and careers that you hate is such a bad way to live, and it will kill you, right?
Oh, yeah. People really, actually, I have a friend right now. She's almost borderline going into the hospital because she's doing activities that are not, they don't, not only do they not give her energy, they suck the energy out of her. It's like sucking the life out of someone. So people, they have health issues, they're depressed, it just affects your whole body, right? If you're doing things day after day, we can all do it for a little while, and you can find ways to, make washing dishes into a meditation, or, learn how to drive better enough so that you can manage and things like that. But if you're doing all of your activities that are at that level, that's not going to be a very healthy life. It's not going to be a really fulfilling life. You're going to, there's a lot of people probably just kind of getting by doing their things. But, the good thing is you can even just pick one little thing to get better at or to spend more time at that gives you joy, that brings you happiness, that feeds your soul a little bit. So sometimes people can, even if they don't have a job that fulfills that with them, they can find outside activities outside of their work that feed them and that fuel them as human beings. So yeah, it's really kind of awful to think about. Hey, Dan has a joke about, you focus on your weaknesses and you get really strong weaknesses, as opposed to focusing on your strengths, and you get stronger. Yeah, we have the mindset around let's take what we can do that we're really good at and lean into that more.
And I came to the session because as my business has grown, I've realized that I believe that by leaning into what I'm uniquely good at and hiring people who can do the things that I had been doing, but can do it better than I can, makes everybody around happier, more successful, and we can impact and help more people. So I approached it. And when I came in, before coming in, you have to do all this work. And let me tell you, folks, if you want to do this work, it's hard. It isn't like, well, I like whatever, I'm going to do more of it. To really figure out what you're uniquely good at, and this is my words, not yours, so you can correct me, but to figure out really how it works, you have to document what you do during the day and how how does it fuel you? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you loathe it? And then you have to go out and ask other people. And this for me, I don't know about your other clients, but for me, this was the hardest part because you have to send an email to a bunch of people and say, all right, what am I good at? And I don't know if it's, I'm a Midwestern girl, if it's because it's just so outside of what we normally do. Hey, tell me what I'm good at. It just is really uncomfortable. But it was so enlightening because, first of all, everyone that I asked absolutely said yes and wanted to help. Everyone that I asked gave really thoughtful and insightful feedback. And everyone that I asked gave information that helped me figure out the unique ability. Is that a critical piece of doing this work, is getting some external feedback because we can't read our own bottle?
100%. I mean, this is one of the harder things to do. You're not alone, Kristi. So many people, so many clients, they put off. I had one client, he wouldn't even read the answers. He sent out the letters to 8 to 10 people. And then when I met with him, I said, oh, yeah, I just assumed he'd read them all. He said, oh no, I had my assistant summarize them for you. I haven't even read them. I was like, okay. So he didn't want to go there because it's really, I don't know what it is about human beings, whether it's our culture, and some cultures are worse than others, right? Where it's like, it's not okay to say that we're good at something. People think that's ego. Whereas I see it as just fact. It's just truth. It's just who you are. Of course, everybody's good at something and we're all bad at other things, right? So why not tell the truth about what we are good at? So yeah, sending out, we call it the unique ability question. It used to be a letter, but now we send it by email, and you just pick 8 or 10 people that you value their judgment and their feedback. And maybe they're people you work with. It could be your sister, your brother, your father, your mother, a community member, someone from your church, anything, someone that you trust. And then you get all these answers back. I mean, even if you just did nothing else, do that and you'll feel so good about yourself, and you'll be validated for the things that you just do being yourself. When we rewrote the second version of our unique ability book, I sent it out to my neighbors, and I didn't know them very well. And I thought, well, I'll just get some new perspectives. And the things they wrote after knowing me for only 3 months, I thought, oh my God. I mean, I'm like, really? I hoped to come across that way, but the way they described it was exactly the way I was hoping I would come across. But I didn't know they would tell that so quickly about me. So we're actually way more transparent than we realize. We think it's all kind of in here, but other people are picking up on all these things about us. And then our job is to take their feedback seriously, because we kind of brush it off and go, oh, well, everybody can do that. Or, oh, so what if I'm nice, or friendly or warm, or, those things aren't a big deal. They just feel, some people think they're just, well, those are just character traits or characteristics. But no, actually, that's part of how you create relationship with people, like your leadership or your communication strengths or your charisma. Those are all parts of the ways that you create value for people. So we take it seriously and lean into those things and really just start to go, oh, okay, how can I do more of that? What's one way or one more person I could do that with that I care about?
And to your point, it really was fascinating how the things that I love to do that I don't even think are skills. Everybody else said they made some mention of it in some different fashion. A couple of people used the exact same language, which like a phrase that I don't use, I hadn't heard, and they both kind of said the exact same thing. And I don't know about other people, but mine all came in really similar. And that helped you get a starting point to actually thinking about what the unique abilities are, because unique abilities aren't like woodworking or golfing.
Right.
That's different. This is something inside.
Those are activities. To me, those are unique ability activities potentially. So they're activities where you use your natural set of talents and you apply it to an activity. Okay. So, and yes, to your point, everybody's letters come out so consistently, whether it's from whatever part of their life. They're like, wow, there's such a consistent theme. So I'm always looking for themes. I like to categorize and organize things, and that's one of my talents. And I use that all the time working with my clients. And I try and pick out the themes. And yeah, it just is so clear when you get the letters back. And then there's some where it's one-off comments, and you're like, and I just ask the person, is that important to you? And they're like, yeah, actually, that's really important, because there's actually a lot of stuff you're doing behind the scenes that other people don't even know you're doing. Like people, you're thinking, I just meeting with a client this morning, and she's a financial wealth advisor, and she gets to know her clients just like most wealth advisors would do, right? You do your discovery process and everything. Well, you should hear all the things going on in her brain as she's getting to know the person. She's collecting information. She wants to know about their whole life. She wants to know about their family. She's collecting all the information. She's building rapport and relationship. Not every financial advisor is going to do all of the thinking, and she's thinking about strategy. She's asking questions, listening for what's not being said. I mean, I could go on like paragraphs of what she's doing. They don't know she's got all that going on up here, right? But they get the effect of it. They get the value that it creates. They end up feeling they can trust her. She comes up with amazing strategies that fit their specific needs. They're not just any old strategies, right? They really tailor to her. And that's partly what makes her so successful.
The other valuable thing about doing this work is to identify the things that you hate and not the things that are not doing dishes, which some people love. So props to those people. They are welcome at my home anytime when the pandemic is over to help themselves to my dishes. But it's activities in your work or in your life that someone else could do, or you could do it in a different way. So I know you see a lot of clients, and I don't expect that you'll remember the conversation we had, but you had something that you said that really, really impacted me. And that was probably the first seed planted for the podcast. And that was, I told you that one of the things, and I call them soul-sucking, time-wasting conversations, which
yes,
if anyone has been in one of these with me, I apologize. But because of I started this company and I talk about it quite a bit, and I'm more than happy to share the story with anybody. And so that means that when I speak or when people hear it, or someone's friend or someone, whatever, wants to start a business, they reach out to me. And up until I saw you, I said yes to every single person.
I remember this conversation.
Yes. So I would meet with these people, and the conversations used to go really well. And then they started going not very well. And in the span of a couple of weeks before I had seen you, a couple of women had come into the office and they started to cry during all of this. And usually, because I feel like I'm a good communicator and people generally like talking with me, I couldn't figure out what was going on, except that they felt the whole time I was thinking I could be doing 100 other things, which is interesting because when I sit on an airplane and would talk to a stranger, I never thought about when am I landing, because I love talking to people. But something about these conversations weren't working anymore, and they were in my time-wasting, soul-sucking part of my... And you said to me, that's because you're a lot. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm
Thanks,
a lot. Yes, we had apparently built up trust at this point in the conversation. And you said you're, kind of too intense for people. So when you had a business that was new, you could relate to these people, but now they're looking at you and they're asking you questions, and you're honestly talking about building a business over a decade, and that's overwhelming for them. And you're trying to help, but maybe it feels like help, but it also feels overwhelming. So we got to figure out another way to help you help people. Yeah. You need a bigger platform. And this is sort of how we got there, right? Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, I do. And so one of the key things is the audience has to match the unique ability, right? So your unique ability had grown to such a level, and you had so much experience, and you're up over here now. And then you've got someone coming in at a beginner level, and it's like the gap is too big. It's like Dan Sullivan talking to a kindergartner, they're not going to relate to his conceptual ideas and big ambitions. They're not going to be able to. So it's not like anybody's bad or wrong. It's just not a right fit. So you having a bigger platform where you could share ideas and stories in a bigger way, rather than, first of all, one-on-one with people who were just like someone else would better serve that person, to give them a few small steps, because you're already way up here. Not like you're better than anybody. It's just you're at a different level, and we're all at different levels, right? And we need the right coach or the right person to talk to at the right time in our lives. You can't go and jump 500 levels up above. You need to get the next level first, and then the next level, and then you're ready for someone else.
And you were spot on. And I didn't say, no, I'm not a lot. I said, you're right. And I've heard that before. And yes, I can be intense, which can be a unique ability.
It's a compliment, by the way. It's a compliment. Yeah. Well, we all have that. All of us, our strengths have a downside. We all have a best self and a shadow self, right? So every single person, we have to manage ourselves and our strengths in a way that we don't cause harm or overuse our strengths, or again, apply it misused or misapplied or overused becomes a weakness. So we have to be careful of, that's just part of our learning of how do we maximize our unique ability and how do we manage it. So we put some guardrails up about, we get other people to talk to those people. So Kristi's not having those conversations. And again, you used your energy. I was picking up on the energy. That's your clue. So for anybody listening, if you're doing an activity that sucks the energy out of you, that's a clue that you need to let that go for whatever reason and find someone else. You've got to say no. Again, you want to be helpful and you were coming from a totally beautiful intention. But in the end, the coaching you were giving people was, again, way over their heads. They just couldn't do it because they weren't at that level yet.
And even that little bit prior to the podcast starting, even that was so enlightening for me. And ever since then, I've said no to the soul-sucking, time-wasting conversations. I do speak in groups, which is different. And then what I found, which is so interesting, and I think I probably would have gotten here eventually, but I got there faster because I was saying no to that kind of conversation, is I love talking to college women in college or men in college students, because they hear the story and they're inspired by it. They're not overwhelmed by it.
Exactly.
And it's been fantastic. I've gotten involved in a university project and I've taught more at university, and it's been such a gift because I feel like I can help, I can communicate, and yet I still might be a lot and I still will be intense, but it's the right audience.
Yeah, they can handle it. And that your intensity is what you're going to come up with. You're not playing small, you're playing big. So when I think of your intensity, that's how I think of, first of all, you're a strong leader, you're decisive, you're going to take charge. If all the things fall apart like this last year, I want you in charge. I'm going to be on your team, right? So, but for some people, they may find that intense, right? And that's okay. You don't have to be for everybody. The trick is to find the audience that we use the concept of hero. Who do you want to be a hero to? And that's really where, you have a target audience where you're going to create the most value. It's not going to be everybody, it's everyone has their niche and niche, however you guys say it. And that's where we all need to focus. Our company works with highly successful entrepreneurs. We don't work with startups. Now some of our clients go and work with startups, and that's their thing. So the more you can tune into the audiences who are really going to benefit, first of all, you're freed up from those energy sucking conversations. And now you're going to create way more value, have way more fun, and have a way bigger impact talking to the people who can be inspired and influenced by what you have to say.
And I've sent you emails and I've sent you cards, and I just am so thankful for our session. And after we talked about this, then we got to the point of, how you actually identify your unique ability. And yes, you can hire Julia you have to be in a program, but if you could get yourself in front of Julia, you still have to do the work. It's like anything else. You still have to do the work. And I went home. I went to the hotel that was my home in Toronto when I was there. And I worked on my unique abilities, and we got down to some. And then because of how my brain works, I put quotes with each one, which is one of the reasons there's quotes at the end of this podcast. And so I have a quote with each of my unique abilities. I have a main sentence, and it has been such a different way just to structure my time. And, all the leaders in my company know this. My executive assistant knows this, and we're aligned in where I should spend my time because we believe that's the best for the company and everyone who works there. And it has been really wonderful. And even in thinking about team structure or family structure, what is the unique ability in a family? Back to the dishes. Maybe someone does like to do the dishes. Let's have that person do the dishes every night. And the person who likes to go grocery shopping, they can always go grocery shopping.
Absolutely. I have one friend at work, and one of her young daughters is really good at organizing and planning parties. So guess who's in charge of planning parties for the family? The little girl. It doesn't even have to be one of the parents, right? And I had another client who was really super strategic thinker in his business at work, but then he kept expecting his wife to kind of figure out some stuff with his daughter's schools. And she was lost. She's like, I need help. She was really good at other things, but she wasn't good at that. And he hadn't made the connection yet. Hey, wait a minute, that's my unique ability only at home. Let me go in there and come up with the strategic problem solving, needed to deal with my daughter's school. He went, once he made the connection, off he went. His wife loves me now, because all of a sudden he's thinking, so it takes it away from gender roles or from anything. It's just like, well, who's better at it? Or in the case of the dishes, which do you prefer, vacuuming or dishes? They got to be done. Housework makes the house work, right? So let's divvy it up based on at least, interest, hopefully, or talent, and then go from there. It's going to make it better for everybody. It's always, unique ability is a win-win-win. I mean, it never hurts anybody.
The perspective is so critical. And it's interesting. So we came up with, the podcast, and I told you, and you said, what about a podcast? And I had thought about a podcast because of the business I'm in and my background about doing a podcast with the company for a long time. But you think that, okay, it needs to be a money-making activity. So I couldn't figure out how to put anything valuable into the world that would also make money, which I thought those two things kind of had to go together. And then after doing this work with you, I came back and presented it to the leadership team and said, here's the concept. And of course, sales says, and that's a lot of your time. So, and a lot of the company launching a podcast and all of these things. So how are we going to get the money back? And I said, well, Julia told me if we lean into our unique ability, it will also make money. So, I mean, we really went into this, and people ask me all the time, why did you launch the podcast? How did you come up with it? And how are you monetizing it? And it has benefited me in many ways. It's benefited the company in many ways. It's benefited a lot of ways that I never anticipated when I was sitting there with you. Many ways. And we're going to do an episode about that. Our 50th episode is actually the things that I've learned from it and some of the benefits. So stay tuned.
Yeah, but I can't wait to hear that one.
It's so many things happened because I open-handed leaned into this unique ability because you encouraged me to do so. And I encourage people listening to encourage your friends, your family, talk about unique ability. Everybody gets better. It's a win-win-win.
Yeah. I mean, Dan has a name for those things that kind of spin off the side of you go for a goal or some new thing. He calls them strategic byproducts and sometimes those are more juicy than the actual goal achievement itself, right? And so that's where just putting yourself in motion, trusting your gut, trusting your coach, using your unique ability in new ways, good things are going to happen. I mean, how much does your reputation get enhanced because you've got a podcast? People hear you speak. They start to know you and trust you and like you, and they want to work with you, and you become this credible It's like writing a book, you put yourself out there in all these ways, and then there's all these other benefits. Plus you're getting to feed your input of collecting other people's stories, and you're feeding your knowledge bank, which is then going to have you be better in everything that you do. So if we have you be better in your company, that's going to be a good thing, right?
And this is the fascinating part, which is why, Flip Your Script is based on my background, based on all of this thinking, based on the stories that we tell on the podcast. And I imagine what you've seen with unique ability. And it is so interesting how when you lean into your unique ability with the intention of good, because you can lean into unique ability with sort of a manipulative
use your powers for good. Yeah.
Use your powers for good. And if you do it for good, then good things come back. Now, I can't put an ROI together based on this is how much the podcast cost, this is how much my time is worth, and this is what we got back. I just know that since we've done it, a lot of really good things have happened, and I can trace it all back to the podcast, and I can trace it all back to November 20th in Toronto of 2019 with you.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Well, and hats off to you for going for it, because I will, just lovingly nudge people in a direction, because to me, it seems like a no-brainer. I thought you had even mentioned the podcast idea first, but I just, you're like, oh yeah, I've been thinking about doing that. I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. Now I don't have to think through all the details of it, but from a unique ability perspective, you're definitely going to love it and be good at it. And therefore good things always happen.
How many, or can you give us other examples of people who have come to you, learned about a unique ability, and flipped their script in some way? Likely not starting a podcast, but maybe. But what other things have you seen people do once they lean into this?
Absolutely. I mean, I could probably think of a million, but one of the things that people do is they give themselves permission, like you did, to stop doing certain things and then to go and do things that they're like, ooh, this would be really cool, or I'd love to do this. So there's a lot of shoulds and everything, even in entrepreneurs who are, supposed to be the people in charge. They have their own should. So there was one guy, this was years ago, but to me, it was such a good story, is that he was from Australia, Bob from Australia, and he owned a Jeep dealership there. He flew all the way to Canada to do his unique ability session, his workshop with us. And he was really ready to sell his business. I mean, he was like just not having any fun whatsoever. But he had a lot of family depending on him, income wise and everything. And so he felt trapped, I think, in that position. So we had this whole day and he was, kind of exhausted by the end of the day, like most people are. And his brain was sort of, Julia's really nice on the outside. Like she pins you down like a specimen,
True.
And so,
that is true.
It's kind of true. Now we're doing it in a little bit more spread out, which is nice. But anyway, he basically, all I had to do was have him reframe his activities, because he is the most innovative guy that you'd ever meet, comes up with new ideas all the time. And he had trapped himself in the office of his Jeep dealership where he thought he should be as the owner. And he was miserable. He's doing paperwork. I mean, he's like terrible at paperwork, and administrative stuff. So once he let go of that, he put someone else up in that office. And he said, what I really love doing is going talking to the salespeople and coming up with new ideas for us to grow our business. Well, that's what he went and did. I got chills. He just went and totally did that. So he didn't have to sell his business. A lot of people go back and do that. I had another client who had this really strong sort of father influence of how one should do life. You've got to be the chief, the cook, and the bottle washer. You got to do everything. You got to be the first one at work and the last one out at night and work hard and that work ethics kind of stuff. Where meanwhile, this client is Mr. Vision, Mr. Visionary, Mr. Oh my gosh, I can see things in 3D IMAX, and then I'm really good at finding the people to pull together to make the vision a reality, but I'm not the actual person to do all the stuff. And here he was doing all the stuff. Well, that's pretty not fun, right? And you're not going to get very far. If you have a big vision, you're not going to be able to execute on your vision if you're trying to execute on it without getting other people involved. So with him, it was kind of an emotional session because he got to let go of all those ways that his father had imposed on his brain about how he should do life, and just free himself up to be himself and to do things in a way. And I think to design his life around and his business around the things that, he's got like 9 businesses now or something, because he's got all the who's in place. We call them, who, not how. Figure out the who so you don't get involved in the how. So there's tons of people like that who've shifted their mindset, just shifted their activities. Stop doing the things that you don't love to do and free yourself up from them and go after the things that you're naturally drawn to and that could have a bigger impact. And people's lives get transformed. They see themselves differently. They see their relationships with their families transform and get better. It's like you love getting better too. So it's like everything gets better.
I know that your unique ability.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable sharing it?
Yeah. Sure. So we have this process where we come up with these sort of 10 best habits, and then we boil it down into one sentence just so we have something to latch onto. So my unique ability is making meaningful connections that integrate the parts of a whole and create a path for people to grow and fully express who they are.
So you're living your best life.
Yeah. So that's what I do everywhere I go. And for me, it has to be meaningful. That's why the process isn't easy. It's like a deep, meaningful process. If you want the surface stuff, I'm not your person. And then I integrate and help connect things and organize them. And it could be information, it could be connecting you with your talents. And my big why, a lot of people have read Simon Sinek's Start With Why, and our process helps you find your why just through a different way. And it's all about to help people grow and fully express who they are. That's what I want. I want you to express your uniqueness in the world and you to be growing. And if I'm doing those, that's what I want for me. By the way, each of our unique abilities is what we want for us, but it's the best way that we contribute to others because we help other people be like us or feel like us or think like us. When they're in our midst, we kind of rub off on each other. So it's super fun. It's so fulfilling and meaningful and energizing. I love it.
And you're really good at it. I'll read mine since you shared yours. So
Good.
mine is a long sentence because I like commas and long sentences.
They're all long sentences, don't you worry. Mine's pretty short.
Okay, good. Okay, good. My unique ability is communicating innovative ideas, asking compelling questions, and pursuing excellence by leading and influencing people to think differently and be better.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
since doing the work, I spend a lot more time in that area and my life is better. And hopefully the people around me are better. And I haven't made anyone cry, Julia, since
done,
November.
sweetie,
I mean, except for my kids, maybe my kids, but
yeah, kids are different
Right.
category.
Right. So since November of 2019, that was the last time I met a stranger who came in for a meeting and left with tissues. So I feel like that's winning for them too.
It is winning for them. It really is. And that's where we have to get over the guilt of, oh, well, I couldn't help that person. It's like, no, I'm just not the right person to help you. But here's someone else. You can go talk to them. You know, you can usually find somebody or give them a little bit of tips of where to go, but it shouldn't be you.
And at the center of all of this, which is, I think, perhaps why people don't spend more time in general thinking about unique ability or leaning into it, is because you have to believe that you're worthy of doing what you love and spending more time there and asking other people to do some things that they love. And you have to get really honest and vulnerable with yourself. And that's hard.
Yeah, it is. In a way, it's a harder road to take, but to me, it's way more worth it. But there are a lot of mental obstacles usually. It's not usually physical obstacles. It's all in your mind about, you know, am I worth it, or how can I let someone else? But if you're in a unique ability team and you're letting someone else do an activity that they love doing, it's beautiful because you're not imposing on someone. You're actually giving someone an opportunity to do something they love doing. So the more we can all work in our unique ability and work in concert together, then everybody's happier. And that's ideally the goal. It's not just about the leader doing their unique ability, but it's about everybody working towards more and more. All of us are working towards, never 100%, right? Because then you're also going to switch and evolve your ideas or your activities into higher level activities, right? That you didn't do before.
So if someone were to start the first thing, so someone who's listening and says, boy, that sounds really interesting. How do I start? Is it to track your activities or is it to ask other people? Where would you encourage people to start?
Yeah, well, you can kind of go in either path. You know, if you want to go to uniqueability.com, we have just a simple little website separate from our strategic coach website. There's a little beginner's guide that gives you the letter to send out. I mean, if you want to just do the letter, that would be wonderful. I know some people who've done the letter on behalf of their children or their spouse and given it as a present. Oh my gosh, you want to make someone cry. Give them all the beautiful feedback. You know, it's all the stuff that you would hear at the funeral, or you wouldn't hear at the funeral, right? But now you get to hear it now. Like, wouldn't you want to know that stuff now? So you can do the letter. I mean, there are some assessments we use to help us kind of, you know, because it's so hard to figure out. So there's Kolbe.com, Kolbe, where you can figure out how you take action. That's a really great one. You can go to Clifton Strengths. Gallup has an awesome strengths assessment that we use all the time, and just Google Gallup Clifton Strengths 34. Those two assessments are a really great place to start. And then if you want to do the activities way, just get a piece of paper and start to write down what you do every day. You know, you can do it just at work if you want, or if you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're out of work right now, you just do it with what you do every day, and then start to pay attention to which things give you energy. And then what's underneath that? You know, what are you doing? Are you building relationships? Are you some kind of really good thinker or researcher? Or, you know, what is it about those activities that gives you energy? And then just sort of follow that path. Take it seriously. It's a little stepping stone. And then that's how I ended up where I am. I just, follow one little pebble after the next, and it'll take you somewhere better.
And we already said, I love the better place. Everybody can be better. We can all be better. Yeah. So, Julia, I want to finish with a quote. Is there something that has motivated you or inspired you as you've helped other people flip their script and as you've done the work yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just give a really simple one. And this is a Kathy Kolbe who created the whole Kolbe assessment that I learned about when I first started at Strategic Coach. I had no idea what my talents were. I didn't know at all what I was good at. And I got my Kolbe index and I got my results. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm good at organizing things. And I'm good at creating stability. And so Kathy Kolbe says, success is the freedom to be yourself. And to me, it's just super simple. But if we could each be, and this is my journey, right? How do I just be myself, my unique self? How do I appreciate myself? And that if I can do that and find new ways to be myself in new, helpful ways, I'm successful.
And in my life, even personally, I think about it now, a time before unique ability and a time after unique ability, because there is a clear distinction. Once you start thinking this way and are aware of it, it changes everything.
Yeah. One of my clients, when he got the letters back, he said, you can't unring that bell. And I thought, oh, that's such a great way to say it. You can't unknow it. Once you know something, I'm like that. Once I know something, I can't unknow that. So you just take a different path and you give yourself permission and you know that you're worthy, because we all are worthy. That's just a conversation we have that we're not. And we just take those little steps. Again, it doesn't have to be big and radical. It can just be small, but everything adds up. There's that compound interest in life too. So we talk about this with our clients. Every quarter you make some changes every quarter, and then every quarter builds on the next quarter. All of a sudden, 3 years from now, you could be in a totally different place, doing totally different activities if you keep making those changes every single day.
And those of us who are thinking this way, I also think that we have a responsibility to point out other people's unique abilities. And it's a different way to give someone a compliment, people don't even realize that they're really gifted at something because it's so natural to them. And to be able to say to someone, you are really good at this. Did you know? And it means a lot. It really means a lot to people when you start to look, and you're also looking for the best in someone and not looking for the worst, which is another really positive mindset shift.
It's a real gift to do. I mean, some of us do that naturally, and I think you do that naturally as well. My client this morning, she does that naturally too, but it is a gift. So anybody could do it. Somebody does something for you that's really great. You just tell them how much you appreciate it and be specific about what you're noticing. It's huge. It just fills up everyone's buckets, right?
Thank you for coming on the podcast. I know from your unique ability and spending time with you that this is not your favorite thing to do. So I really appreciate that you are willing to do it. I think that by sharing unique ability and the journey of how the podcast came to be and how you've helped me, that we can then share and help other people. And so today we got to use both of our unique abilities. Julia,
Yay!
High five.
2 unique abilities, high fives. No, honestly, I love talking about unique ability. Once I get going, I'm fine. I'm just more of a shy kind of person backstage, but I am super passionate about unique ability. And so thank you so much for the opportunity and just to hear about what's going on with you. I mean, I love progress. And when I hear what progress people have made since we met, it just totally, warms my heart, fills me up. That's one of the reasons I love doing what I do. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And we've had thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads because you gave me a seed and I leaned into it. And as we close this birthday party, I want to thank all the guests who authentically and genuinely shared their stories. Everyone who listens, thank you. And the talents of the Media Minefield team, Christina, Holly, Mary, who have made this crazy dream into reality. Thank you. My hope is Julia's story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Script, hosted by Kristi Piehl and produced by Media Minefield. If you like our message, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also check out flipyourscriptpodcast.com for pictures, resources mentioned in the show, and information about our other great episodes.